Well, hello everyone. This is Bob Main with Handgun World Podcast. Thanks for listening to a practical show done by a practical guy, and that is me. Well, I don't often talk about revolvers, uh, primarily because I don't own one right now. However, I decided to bring Dave Somm back on the show. He's a huge contributor, done several interviews with me, and Dave recently picked up one of the Smith& Wesson 642 Ultimate Carry revolvers. Dave, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
Hey, by the way, before we get started, for some of you that uh, may not be real familiar with my show. I'm now going into my 16th year starting in August. And so I had somebody email me, want to know if they could listen to some of my older episodes, just go to handgunworld.com and you can find them all. Dave, tell us about your new revolver.
Okay, so this is the Smith& Wesson and Libsy's collaboration, the 442. This is a essentially an aluminum framed airweight J Frame revolver. This one is in 38 special, so you get 5 shots out of it. Um,
And it's the
it-
Ultimate Carry Lipsy special, right?
yeah, so this is
Talk about that.
basically yeah. So if most people they love to carry the basic 442 or 642, but they're like, if you really wanted to practice shooting with it, there's a couple things that you could take it to a gunsmith and get done.
Yeah,
And like adding basically good sights, uh fixing the trigger so it's smoother, and then with the J frames that they're really easy to change out the grips, and so they would find the grips. So this is basically if you took a basic J frame and took it to a gunsmith and got all that stuff done, then this is a cheaper package than if you had it like took it right to a gunsmith.
of
Um,
course. It usually is cheaper to buy it that way, and it's really cool. Lipsy's a big firearms distributor. Obviously, bless you. Obviously, they have made a deal with Smith& Wesson. So, talk about some of the differences between that and just a regular 38 snub nose.
okay, so the biggest difference that you'll notice it has, and we'll just pop the cylinder open so you can see that it's empty. It has these sights on it. So a regular Smith& Wesson, they have the hammer is covered and it's kind of this ramp thing, and then the
Yeah.
front sights are kind of a ramp. Now, that's on purpose. That's to make it so that you can pull it out really easy with no snagging at all coming out of a pocket. So, like for example, there's a um, body camera video of a police officer getting into a wrestling fight with a guy. Guy gets his gun. Officer is able to get into his pocket, come right out with his backup revolver, and defend himself. So that's good for that. But if you're trying to shoot at any distance, it's really hard to pick up those sights. So
Yes, it
they've
is.
added the XS sights, and they're very much like a big dot. I mean, you can probably see it right here.
Yeah, that looks great.
Great big green sight and a
Big
nice U
green
notch.
sight and a nice U notch. So
Yeah.
they're real sights. One of the big criticisms I've always had of snubby revolvers, like you just described, they don't have real sights.
Yeah, and I mean the gun is accurate. You can reach out with it, but it makes it difficult to aim at further distances. So we've added sights to this.
Good.
Um, the front sight is pinned in, so the you would pull out the pin if you needed to change it. The rear
Hmm.
sight is dovetailed, so you can drift it. And in fact,
That's
I did.
awesome.
Yeah, so it's
Just
got
like
a
a just like a semi-auto pistol where they're dovetailed and easily changeable.
Yeah. So if you don't like these, you can get them, you can get new ones. Or if like on mine, the rear sight was a little bit off from the factory, so I was able to take it in someone who has a sight pusher and they scooted it over. It's pretty much dead on now. Um,
Good.
so and as far as I understand with the trigger, it's not it's not like the best J-frame trigger that's available, but it is a step up from the original one.
Okay, I was going to
The
ask you
basic
that.
so this one, from what I understand, they have actual like a um and I've just heard it secondhand, so I may be getting it wrong, but they have it set so that there's actually a place for the like the crossbar of the trigger to pivot on. Apparently on the stock 642s, like the end of the trigger bar is just against the frame, and
Yeah,
so it grinds a little bit. Um, but these are it's manageable. That's still a heavy double action trigger, but you can control it pretty well.
good. All right.
So I think it's an improvement on those basic ones. And then we have these grips that are made by VZ.
Yeah, those
They
look
are
good.
G10. So yeah, I went with the 442 because if you're gonna get a little snub revolver, it may as well look like an old like detective revolver from an old
Yeah.
these grips. You can kind of see it on the light here, but they're kind of a red and black, so they kind of look like cherry wood. But
Oh, that's nice.
yeah, so I mean, it looks nice, but they're pretty thick. You can see it kind of extends past the frame, both on
I
front.
see that. So you can get a good grip on the revolver.
Yeah, it fills it in so you can get your fingers in there, and it actually fills your hand.
That's very important.
Yeah, Daryl Bulkey and Brian Eastridge, who consulted with Lipsy's on the design of this, they feel that the most important aspect of accurate handgun shooting is the way that the gun fits in your hand and interacts with your hand. And so these are pretty thick. They fit my hand pretty well. Um, and the cool thing about J frames, I mean, they've been making this size revolver since like the 1950s. So
Hmm.
there's like endless number of grips that you can get for it.
Oh, yeah.
Just configuration. So these are that has a slight texturing to them, but they're pretty smooth. Um, that helps. So I've heard some people say that with the rubber grips that might be more squishy, they actually have more friction on your hand, and so you can actually get like blisters from, when
Oh,
you fire it, the recoil is like it's high friction, so it's like rubbing against your hand.
but
So
not yours. Not yours, though.
yeah, no, these are fairly smooth. But again,
Yeah.
like if you don't like them, just get a
Yeah.
screwdriver, put different
Change
ones
them to
on.
whatever you want. That is the beauty of it.
And one cool thing about these grips is they are relieved on this side, so you can get a speed loader and it just drops right in
Oh,
there.
yeah. Look at that. Now, for people who are watching this on YouTube, you're seeing this, but why don't you explain to them what does relieved mean to make it easier to put a speed loader in?
So if you imagine the grips, and then imagine you take like a spoon or a scallop, and you're going to cut out on the left side of the gun. So there's a big cutout here. They're
Hmm.
not they're not symmetrical. On the left side, kind of where the latch is to release the cylinder, it's it's like someone scooped it out. And so a speed loader is this round. This one is made by HKS.
There you
It's a
go.
round, little plastic piece, the same size as the cylinder of your revolver, holds all five cartridges in a line that line up with the holes. The idea is that if you need to reload your revolver, you just line it up with the holes, you drop it in,
Yeah.
you turn that, the rounds drop into the cylinder, the speed loader falls
And
away.
absolutely nothing gets in the way of those rounds and the speed loader. That's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, for these grips, and that's apparently pretty
Yeah.
rare for J Frame Revolver grips. A lot of them are made for comfort, and maybe they figure that like most people they're not really planning on reloading, that it's just you're gonna shoot five shots and then be done. So,
Yeah.
but you can get other grips, especially from the Hamry Forge. They're making a lot
Yeah.
of really smart grips. They have a design. permission from Craig Spiegel to make Spiegel shaped grips, which have a similar thing.
Oh, it's
Uh,
endless what they're going to be able to do with this.
yeah, so it's just this is just like if you like J frames, this is like a good J frame.
Well, I've
Um,
been wanting one of these. The one I'm probably going to get is going to be the 432 UC in 32 H&R Magnum,
yeah,
just because I've always wanted one of those. And but the thing I like about J frames is they're so easy to carry, especially in the pocket. Would you agree?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you let's say you go to there's a really handy website called Handgun Hero.
Yes.
You can compare the size of guns. This thing is about the size of a Glock 43, or the Shadow Systems equivalent for that. So it's not like the smallest gun in the world, but again, due to the shape, it's got this kind of ramped back. It makes it come out of the pocket. And then if you pair it, this is a Micah's pocket
Micah
holster,
holster. Yeah.
Micah holster. So this just drops right in there. And then when this is in your pocket, it just looks like a wallet. It doesn't look like anything. You know, if you put it in your pocket like this, if your pants are a little uh slim cut, then you might start to see the shape of the cylinder or the shape of the
Yeah.
barrel. But yeah, something like this. It's just right there in the pocket.
Yeah,
And
and I'm looking at, excuse me, sorry to interrupt you. I'm looking at the Smith& and Wesson website. That thing only weighs 16 ounces,
yeah,
which
see,
that's very light. That's
yeah.
nice. Um, it is a night sight up in front,
Mhm.
which a lot of J frames, they don't have that.
Yeah, for sure. And I've noticed that actually the green paint on here is actually glow in the dark too. So if you, 'cause I mean, I figure they're just like, yeah, why not? Make it glow in the dark.
Yeah,
If you get it out in the light, it'll be that much more easy to see.
yeah. Yeah, that is a really cool little J frame. I think that if you're going to get a J frame revolver, invest the money, the extra money, because it is extra. It looks like it's somewhere around 125 to $150 more than what you would pay for a regular J frame, right?
Yeah, I think so you can get I think it's the 340 PD
Yeah.
is a 38 special, but it's like the scandium frame. So this one's aluminum, and I think the 340 it's a different, it might be an aluminum frame and maybe a titanium cylinder. This is just a steel cylinder.
Well, I
Um,
think yours is about the same size and weight as a standard 642 snubby.
yeah, yeah, it's basically it's the same weight, but so it's not as expensive as one of those. It's a little bit more than the bare bones model.
Yeah,
Um, but if you're at all interested in practice or if you're and when the listeners of this show, I'm sure, are the type of people who are going to want to take it to the range and make sure that they can get a good group and
absolutely. That's what I would do.
yeah, yeah.
That's
So
what
I
I would
would
do.
it would be worth it to spend the money on this. You get the better grip, you get the better trigger. It's still heavy. It's probably 10 pounds. In fact,
That's
um,
okay though. Oh, you got a trigger gauge?
no, I
No?
don't have a
Oh,
trigger
okay.
gauge, but I do have. So this is my SIG 229. It
Yeah.
has about like a 10-pound trigger, and after working with the J frame and getting used to figuring out how to pull the trigger, this thing just feels like a sponge. Like it's so
Yeah.
easy.
You
And
gotta you gotta love the SIG P229. You just gotta love it. They're
yeah.
phenomenal guns. Um, but back to your J frame. It looks to me like what Smith& and Wesson has done in conjunction with Lipsy's is they've solved all the problems of J frames. Um, people complain about the sights, people complain about the trigger, people complain about the grips, people complain that they're hard to reload. And it seems like that they've kind of solved those problems.
Yeah, it addresses all this thing. It makes this a very practical carry gun. I mean, there are still limitations, obviously. I mean, there's only on the 38, there's only 5 shots. On the 32, there's only 6 shots. But if you are inclined to carry a revolver, this is a really good option. Um, and
Yeah, and let's
especially,
talk about Dave, let's talk about some reasons to carry a revolver. You know, we're in a semi-automatic world right now, and there's all kinds of Wonder 9 and small 9 millimeter semi-automatics, and you know the, the gun media and all the marketers tell you got to have one of these semi-auto 9 millimeter. But in your mind, what are some of the advantages of a nice little revolver?
well, so one of the if you think back to the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, you may have watched that on YouTube, or I believe Kyle has written a book about it. You could buy his book and refresh your memory on it. One of the things that the prosecutor did, he made all sorts of crazy claims about, AR-15s and
Yeah.
assault rifles. He was doing like at some point he pointed the gun at the jury box, like
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
yeah. So he did all kinds of crazy stuff. So if you get a Glock 17 sized gun with a compensator and you get all these customized cuts on it and all these parts, I
Yeah.
mean, they're going to be showing clips of John Wick running through a club and just mowing people down. Um,
Yeah.
Something like this, no one's ever going to think that you're trying to like take down a club or doing anything other than just like, hey, I'm minding my own business.
Yeah, defending
Just
myself. Well, that's very true, Dave. I mean, how could some anti-gun attorney hold up a little J frame and
yeah,
say that it's a terrible, awful, assault weapon? How are they going to be able to make that claim?
yeah. I mean, it's about the most innocuous looking gun.
Yeah,
Other advantages are, like I said, for the basic, like even the basic 642, you can, let's say you are up close with somebody and you get to like a shoving match or something, you feel the need to employ deadly force. You can get a gun like this out of your pocket, um, for safety here. You could jam it into them and pull the trigger a few times.
yes, you could.
If you
You
did
could
that,
pull it all. You could pull it all 5 times if you needed to.
yeah, on an automatic, if you if you do that with an automatic,
Yeah.
you're gonna put it out of battery. You won't.
Yeah, a semi-automatic. Yes. Yeah, you're gonna push it out of battery and go ahead and do that again. Show that to the people watching on YouTube. So push on the front of the barrel.
Okay, so
Just do
here's
that a little bit.
here's the trigger. You can
Yeah.
see that it works. All
Yeah.
right, so push it a little bit.
There you go. No trigger.
Trigger is
There it
dead.
is. Trigger's dead. No trigger. No
And
gun
that's
firing.
I mean, that's a safety feature. You don't want the chamber to be cracked open and have a round go off. Like you don't want that. But
Right.
it's a limitation for semi-auto.
But that goes away with a revolver because it's not designed like that. So you could
Yeah.
somebody could push on that as hard as they want, and you're still going to press the trigger 5 times.
Yeah. So you could jam it, but by getting close in here where the cylinder is rotating, but it's that's far less likely from
Well,
what I
I'll tell you
understand.
what, a bad guy could grab the gun and hold the cylinder so that it won't turn. However, I have taught people how to easily get out of that situation with a revolver.
Yeah, you could use leverage
Yes.
any number of ways you can get out of that
Yes.
sort of distraction. And the idea with this is that it would just come out and then you would go straight in. So it's an advantage for situations like that. I've heard of people talk about females in particular. They said that one, I think it was Chuck Haggard. He was talking about how there had been a survey where they talked about the actual ways that a woman might be attacked versus a man.
Uh-huh.
So a man, they'll get right up in your face maybe and do something like that. With a woman, they may come up behind her and grab her arms, and so her arms are pinned. But if you have something like this in an appendix position, you could reach down, with your arms pinned, you could reach down, pull it up, and then kind of snake it around the back of your leg and kind of upside down until feel the other person's leg and just
And just
kind of
start pressing the trigger. Um,
and
and
that
you
wouldn't be able to do that with a Glock.
yeah, you're right. You're right, Dave. And you just mentioned appendix carry. Okay, that's become a very, very popular method of carrying. Some people consider appendix carry unsafe. However, in my opinion, and I'd like you to chime in, with a revolver like yours, with that long double action trigger press, I would say that'd be a very safe gun to appendix carry. What do you think?
I think so. Yeah. It's definitely you have to work pretty hard
Yeah.
to
I
so
mean, look at that. Look how hard you had to work to get that gun to fire like that.
yeah, and it's
So
a
I
long
would
distance.
think if you're worried about appendix carry safety, maybe consider a J Frame revolver. And I think also the roundness of that revolver kind of conforms more to your body shape than a, square semi-automatic.
Yeah, it they kind of fit a little bit better where a belt might go and engage with it where it has, more of a kind of surface to go over. There's a number of appendix carry revolver holsters.
Hmm.
The American Fighting Revolver people have one that they've made. There's the Filster has their holsters for it. There's a number that you can get. Even Micah, he has one, but it's basically one of these with kind of a metal clip.
With the metal clip, yeah.
Yeah. There's no frills to it, but like you could just clip it on the front of your pants and
Yeah.
have it.
Well, you don't need a lot of frills on a holster because people don't see them anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Or you can even get like a boot grip or some of the
Uh-huh.
hammer grips where it has the hook, and the hook will basically hook onto the belt, and so you can just tuck it in and it'll stay there just by itself.
Yeah.
That's not that's not the safest, but honestly, I mean, with your pants, you don't have a lot of stuff that's going to be getting in there, between your waistband and your skin. So as long as you can just get it in there, like it'll sit there. And then, yeah, one of the other grips I'm interested in are the Hamry Forge, where they have a hook
Hmm.
that sticks out from here.
Yep, they got a nice hook. And I just think that the likelihood of that gun firing when it's in any holster is far less likely than a Glock or a Sig 320. Ha ha ha. I had to make that joke. And or an M&P or anything like that.
Yeah, it's got I mean, it's got the all the hammer safeties that we've had on revolvers for a long time, where like it's not going to move forward unless you have it
Yeah,
fully depressed, and it's just a heavier trigger.
yeah,
Um, so it's just you'd have to try really really hard to accidentally shoot yourself, I think, with
yeah.
something like. Um,
Well,
but
Dave, I want to wrap this up in about 6 or 7 minutes, but in this next 6 or 7 minutes that we have, talk about the accuracy of it.
So this thing is pretty accurate. You have to figure out how to use the trigger. And one thing I would say that you'll hear about people talk about staging the revolver trigger. So so you pull it until it locks up here. So right now I've got the trigger pulled, but you can see the cylinder is locked.
Still
So
locked.
we have cocked the hammer, just add a little bit more pressure, and then it shoots. So not that you would use that deliberate skill in a fight, but being able to do that really helps you to learn how to manage the trigger so that you can get a smooth trigger press without disturbing the sights. And then
Yeah.
sure when you're gripping it, you have some of the grip sticking up. I made that mistake and tried to choke up on it, kind of hurt my wrist a little bit because you
Yeah.
end up with your wrist like this and then hitting it with
Yeah.
recoil.
That didn't
So
feel very good, did it?
yeah, then you want to get the crease of your finger here in the middle of the trigger, and you want to be pushing on the kind of the trigger guard kind of near the bottom where you get the most leverage. So you do that, you get your thumbs, you get a good grip on it, get some good push and pull tension. You want to have your thumbs tucked down. If you have your thumbs stacked like you would on a semi-auto,
Don't
then
do
it's
that.
going to hit your thumbnail, and
Yeah.
it's like it.
Yeah.
Um, so you do that, and then you hold the sight steady and you shoot. It is very, very accurate. If your shots are missing, in my case at least, it's because I wasn't doing one of those fundamentals correctly. Um, so the first time I took it shooting, I, I sent some rounds through it. I did a test that's called snub work. It's a 10 shot test. You shoot 4 shots from 2.5 yards, 4 shots from 5 yards, and then 2 shots from 10 yards. And you're just kind of a baseline of your accuracy skill. And then I did that. I got a passing score. I got like 10 hits with the right hand and then 8 hits with the left hand because it's my weak hand. And then I set up a an energy drink can just up on a rock. My our van is like 16 feet long, so it's like
Mhm.
5 yards long. This thing was more than 2 car lengths away. And I was just like, oh, let's just see what I can do. So I took careful aim and first shot the can just
Nice.
like nailed it.
The
I think I
can
hit it
was done for on the first shot, right?
4 out of 5 shots. So they're not designed for really long range,
Yeah.
but they are capable of really reaching out.
Oh,
If
I tell you what, I've seen some people who have practiced with their revolver. I've seen them shoot that thing 25, 30, sometimes even 50 yards real
yeah,
well.
yeah. So I would say if this is a gun for, I've heard it say that it's an expert's gun. I would agree with that because it does take a bit of effort. You have to go and
Yeah.
you have a lot of dry fire. You have to kind of figure out how to hold your hands, figure out how to work the trigger.
Yeah.
But if you put in that work, it is quite accurate.
Yeah.
And I think at least out to 15 yards, that's what the sights are regulated for 15 yards. And I've heard um, the reason is because you don't know how far away, what's going to present itself. And so you should be
No,
able to,
sure, we don't. We
but
don't.
yeah,
Good.
it's
Um, I'm jealous,
very,
Dave. I want one of those, man. I need to have one of those. Uh,
yeah,
I think like I said, I think I'm going to get the 32H in our Magnum version. Just because that's why. But
well, and
yours is nice.
it's going to be a lot. So the first day when I went out and shoot it, I might have injured my wrist a little bit because I did
Uh-oh.
have a sore wrist. Like it does have, so I mean, if you if you choke up on the grip like that, you
Yeah.
end up your wrist is kind of torqued, and then you add in the hard
The
recoil.
force of the recoil.
Yeah, so you want to have it sticking up a little bit. But with the 38 special, even with these 148 grain wad cutters. These are about the softest ammo you
I
can
was going to
get.
ask you what you're shooting. So, which brand of ammo is that?
Um, these are MagTech. And
Okay.
that's just the cheapest that I could get order online. There's not a lot of wad cutters on sale locally where I am. You could probably find better ones like High Desert Cartridge Company or Georgia Arms. They kind of have worked with them for that. But then what I found is that these they don't work well with a speed loader. And so for the rounds that I put in the speed loader, I've just got these are just American Eagle, just 130 grain, just FMJ. Just the round
Excellent.
allows them to drop right in, make it speedy. So I don't shoot a lot of these, and these actually are quite a bit boomier than the wad cutter rounds, but these are plenty accurate. They cut a bigger channel than the round nose, and with a barrel this short,
Mm-hmm.
Basic hollow points don't work because
Yeah.
the bullet doesn't get going fast enough. So I wouldn't try to get like a plus B hollow point. It's just gonna hit your hand harder.
It's yeah, it's going to make a lot more recoil, and you might not get much of an advantage.
Yeah, I mean you'll put a hole through them, but it's gonna, so will this.
Yes.
So but yeah, so I would say this they are fairly accurate, and one of the advantages of a revolver like this, I've heard it described as like gas station carry or gas station low ready, where you have it in the holster in your pocket, and then you can put your hand in the pocket and get it staged. And then
Yeah.
if you want to get a sub-second draw, like without a lot of effort, set up your target within arm's length and then have the timer go off and then gun just comes straight out, right up to the target, bang.
Hmm.
And I
I
was
do
able
that
to,
all the time, Dave. When I'm carrying my little pocket 380, I've got three different, is it three? One, two, three. Yeah. Yeah. I got three different little pocket 380s. And
Mhm.
I do that all the time. When I walk into a place, my hands are in my pocket and my hand is gripping the gun. And nobody knows that that's happening. All they see is me with my hand in my pocket.
Yeah, and you can be super relaxed, but I've timed it on the shot timer on my phone. I think the fastest I got was 0.58.
Nice. Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, where it
Point
beep,
five eight.
bang,
That's pretty good.
0.58. Yeah.
Oh,
So if you
wow.
want sub-second draw is you start with your hand on the gun in the pocket and then it's just out, point, bang.
And think
Um,
about, I want people to think about what you're saying right now. Think about the people that are carrying like a Glock 43X and they're carrying it inside the waistband at about the 4 o'clock position.
mhm.
What's the likelihood you think they're going to have a .58 draw
I
time?
don't I don't think it's physically possible.
Yeah. That's the thing. So that those little revolvers have a lot of advantages.
And it's for, within arm's length. So
Yes.
I mean, it's kind of a narrow time of when you would do that, but it would be very accurate because you just put the revolver to where you want to go, the bullet to go, and it'll go right to it.
Well, and like you said, the fastest draw is having your hand already on the gun.
Yeah.
And when your hand is in your pocket or in your coat pocket or your pants pocket or whatever, when your hand is in there and it's already on the grip of your revolver, that's pretty easy to draw, isn't it?
Yeah. So these guns, they you can draw potentially really fast. They're very reliable. You can take one of these, put 5 rounds in it. You could put it in a drawer literally for decades. Pick it up, pull the trigger, it'll still shoot.
Yes, it
I've
sure
heard
will.
that revolvers will withstand neglect, but not abuse. That is one of
Yes.
the downsides. When you go and shoot this thing, you gotta clean it out pretty much after you shoot. You can get lead and stuff built up in the cylinders that it can make it harder for the next rounds to load in. But if you just get in the habit of shooting or just cleaning it after you shoot, periodically you're going to want to go and tighten up the screws, make sure they're as tight as they need to be. But if you do that, if you just need a gun that just I need it to fire when I need it to fire, a revolver is really good for that. And like I said, they don't look scary. You can travel, I mean, anywhere in the country where it's legal to have a gun.
Anywhere where it's legal to have a
Travel
gun.
freely.
Now, in
Yeah.
some states you travel to, you might not be legally allowed to carry, but you could
Right.
probably take that gun into the state at least.
Yeah, you could have it in the state. You could put it in a lockbox in your car or just have it in your hotel room or whatever campsite, depending on what you're doing. But
Yeah.
yeah, these are very. It's an option if you are um, realistic about the threats that you're going to face, and if you're not going to be facing gangs of people, and most of us aren't. There are a few places where you probably do want some extra ammo on
Yeah.
hand.
Yeah.
But this even would work as a good backup gun. Um, just supremely reliable. The pocket carry, the size gives you a lot of flexibility as how you want to carry it.
Yeah.
Um, So it's a good choice.
Yes, it is a good choice. Well, congratulations, Dave. Thanks for coming on and talking about this. And I always appreciate everything you do for the show, your voicemails and your willingness to interview and things like that. And people, I'd like to get some comments on this, folks. I'm going to be putting this on Facebook. I'm going to be putting it on X. You can comment right on the website. If you're listening off of handgunworld.com, you can send me an email, handgunworld@gmail.com, and send some feedback for Dave too, because I'll forward it right over to him right away so that you can read it. And even if you want to beat up Dave and you want to give him a negative comment, you can send that to getlost@gmail.com. And no, we accept all comments. We accept all comments, don't we?
Sure, yeah.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it. And folks, I'm going to close the show right now. This was kind of a short one, but it's something that I think is meaningful. And I'd like to hear from all the revolver enthusiasts. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening and tuning in. I'm Bob Main. This is Handgun World Podcast. Remember to shoot straight, shoot safe, read your Bible every day, and don't forget to support me on Patreon. Thanks.